Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast. I am your host, Christine Luken. Today's episode is all about one of my favorite topics, helping kids develop a healthy relationship with money before the world teaches them otherwise. Because let's be honest, most of us learned about money through trial and error. We inherited money stories from our families, picked up beliefs about success, scarcity, and self worth, and often spend years untangling these stories as adults. But what if we could help the next generation, our kids, grandkids, nieces, and nephews, to build healthier foundations from the very beginning? My guest today is David Delisle, creator of The Awesome Stuff, TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and compassionate advocate for helping families connect money with what truly matters. David's work started with a simple question he asked his own boys while standing in a toy store. Is this my awesome stuff? That question sparked a movement that is now being used by families and schools across North America to help children understand values, priorities, and mindful decision making around money. David is also the author of the graphic novel for kids, The Golden Quest: Your Journey to a Richer Life, and the creator of the Awesome Stuff Discovery Cards, which he describes as money mindfulness in a box. David, welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast.
Hi, Christine. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here as well. Well, David, let's start with your origin story. You were standing in this toy store with your sons when the question, is this my awesome stuff, first appeared. What happened in that moment, and why did it become something much bigger than a conversation around toys?
Yeah, it actually even goes back a little earlier than that because when my boys were really, really young, 4, 5, that age, I would put everything in terms of chocolate bars for them. So we'd be looking at something, they'd be like, I want this, Dad. I'd be like, well, that's 12 chocolate bars. That's 15 chocolate bars. And the reason, and this leads right up to the awesome stuff, is so much of it that we want to teach and that we don't understand, it's all about value and knowing what you're deciding. And that's what leads right up to that question, is this my awesome stuff? It's not, do I really want it? It's, is this what I value? And I think even
Mhm.
as adults, we don't ask that question enough.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I love that you use chocolate bars because when you're talking with little kids about money, it's very nebulous. They don't really grasp it. They think it's just like, well, you take the card and you tap it or you swipe it. Like, what's the big deal? But having something tangible like that they actually can get their heads around, like, I think that's pretty genius.
Yeah, it was so funny because people were always like, "How when do you start teaching your kids? How young?" I mean, they get it even at that age. They know how much they want a chocolate bar, and if they're weighing, 15 chocolate bars or a teddy bear, e every child knows what they'd rather have, and there is no right or wrong answer. It's yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. Um, and I'm curious, what was your upbringing around money relative to, did your parents teach you about money? Did you were you just naturally good at it as a kid?
Yeah, it's funny. I get this asked a lot because I was always interested in money. I was a definite money nerd, but a lot of it, when I look back at it, I didn't realize at the time it's because I watched my dad work and do things he hated. So he'd be working all the time, didn't love it, and so for me, money started becoming, this thing that you don't like doing to get,
Mm,
and I watched that, and that sort of formed some of my early beliefs, but then again, I mean, it evolved so much past that, seeing all my dad's money stories, my mom's money stories, that contrast, and I started realizing this isn't about stuff at all.
yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I teach is that money is emotional, and we don't spend money usually because of the dollars and cents. We spend money because of how we want to feel. So, how does the awesome stuff framework help children understand what truly matters to them instead of simply chasing the next shiny thing that they want?
Yeah, this is where it's so incredible. Like, it sounds simple, and even at its basic level, it is simple. It's like, is this my awesome stuff? And right out of the gate, almost everybody's going to say, yes, I want this thing. I love it. This is my awesome stuff. And kids will do the same. But forcing yourself to actually continually ask that question, you'll realize that just some things fade and some things don't. And so that whole idea of the awesome stuff and what's important to you starts to evolve. So we talked about like chocolate bars for the kids. I mean, for adults, it could be, a vacation or helping a loved one or retiring a year early. Once you start really, thinking about things in terms of like, what do I really value? It
Mhm.
it's amazing how quickly it shifts. Like it is this bit of a journey. That's why the book was Journey to a Richer Life,
Yep.
but it shifts fast once you really start thinking about, like, what are the things you really love and that you care about.
Yeah. Well, and I love the way that you talked about it in the book in that particular section because it was like, the wise man was like, think about all the things in your room, what's the awesome stuff? And he's like, well, it's all awesome. And he's like, well, no, like what is really the awesome stuff? Like the stuff that you would really miss if it was gone. Like what are you, like you have all these toys and you have all these things, but how often do you play with them? How often do you use them? How often do you think about them? Like, you know, would you even buy them again? Too,
Exactly. I
and then I loved his answer because his answer was his pet fish in his aquarium, like, that was his awesome stuff, and then he realized, like, "Oh, maybe I don't need another toy."
exactly. I do something really fun when I go into schools and talk to the kids, and I'll ask them to think about something they really wanted that they got. And then I start asking, like, "Stand up or put your hand up," everyone who got something that they really wanted. And then I'm like, "How many of you love that thing just as much a week later?" So hands start coming down a month later, a year later. And that's where it
Mhm.
really starts to land, where kids are like, "Oh, I don't even remember what I got for Christmas last year. Like, I know I wanted it, but like, I don't even know what it was." So, and then there's a few little things that, come up. Kids will mention like their dog or a
Yep.
favorite bike, or there's all these little things that like really mean a lot to them, and the rest just fades away. It disappears.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you have this quote in your book, and I was like, "This is genius." This is probably going to be one of our quote graphics. On page 19, the guru, and I'm sorry I don't remember what his name was. He said, "You'll always be happier with a few things you love than a lot of things that you don't love." Or you could say things that you like, because most of us like our stuff, but how much of it do we actually love?
Yeah, and it distracts, like, that's the other thing we don't realize, like, we always think of money in terms of, like, cost, and things in terms of cost, but there is a cost of just attention and time and all of the rest of it, like, everything you have, it it takes a bit of your attention, and if you
Yeah.
have too much of it, you can't the things you really love, they get buried, and you don't notice them,
Yeah.
and, same as you mentioned, like, the kids, like, stuff under the bed or in the closet, or you forget all about it, and then you decide to do, like, a spring cleaning, and you're like, "Oh, my favorite shirt. I forgot all about this." Like,
Yes, it's very easy, like out of sight, out of mind. One of my mentors says, that it is a skill that you need to develop to want the things that you wanted after you have them.
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
do you like the things that you have? Are you still excited and grateful that you have them? And it does make you think twice about the things that you're buying. It's like, do I really
Yeah.
love this? Right? And I think, the Marie Kondo, like, does this bring me joy? We had that movement, what, like 10 years ago? But it's like, but do you love it? Right? Is it your awesome stuff that may not I think that's actually a better qualifier in my book.
Yeah, yeah, it really it does make a big difference, and part of the reason this is so important to me as well is, and I saw this in my dad, you talked about money stories, there's always something he wanted, and then as soon as he got it, he wanted something the next thing.
Right.
And it's a common trap we fall into, and that's where I think a lot of people don't realize, like, they're waiting for that first million or that first boat or that first, home or car. But what we don't realize is as soon as you get it, if you're just chasing the thing, there will
Mhm.
never be a point in time where you have enough.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to, really instill is like that idea of what's really important to you so you can actually achieve enough and not feel like you're always a little bit poorer than you want to be.
Yeah. Well, and I certainly think that the marketing that is targeted at kids these days is just insane, between TV and social media, and even just seeing, what their friends are playing with. It's crazy.
Yes. Oh, I say it a lot because we talk about like keeping up with the Joneses.
Yep.
And when we were kids, keeping up with the Joneses was like, our parents' friends or someone at school or someone on the, same street as us. And now it's everyone in the world. And not only is it everyone in the world, half of it's make believe. There's people who will like they're showing off wealth and things and stuff that they don't even own. It's
Yeah.
and kids don't know the difference. They just figure everybody's doing these things and everybody has these things. And look how happy they are because they just see that snapshot and it's fake reality.
Yeah. Yes. It's a good reminder, not just for kids, but for all of us.
Yeah. It's hard to forget.
Yes, I know. Well, what was the moment you realized that money wasn't really about money? And how did that realization change the way you approached teaching kids and families?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few moments. As a kid, a lot of it, like I mentioned, was watching my dad. So he never reached a point where he wasn't chasing more.
Mm,
And even as he started having this lifestyle that, people were envying and doing the things he wanted, he had, the dream home and Harley and was doing these exotic travel, and it still was never enough. So that really landed. But even myself, knowing this and growing up my whole life, I easily fell into the same trap. Like I remember buying real estate when I was young and then, watching the markets and then moving to a bigger house when the opportunity was there and then a bigger house. And it just, these homes kept growing and they weren't making me any happier, and I could see
yeah.
that there was no end. Like, this was if I don't break this pattern, there will be no end to this chase. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So, in my work, I spend a lot of time helping adults uncover and unravel the money stories that they inherited growing up. Stories about scarcity, success, worthiness, what money means. You shared something in your intake form that really resonated with me. You said to me, "You're helping adults unwind a money story that got passed down to them. I'm trying to help kids never get that story in the first place." So let's talk about that. What are some of the unhealthy money stories children commonly absorb? And how can parents interrupt that cycle before those beliefs become lifelong patterns, whether it's around spending or saving or something else? Because, your book and your cards are not just about spending.
Yeah, it's so a lot of those money stories, they're what's crazy is they're things that we think we should be teaching our kids.
Oh, do
And
tell.
well, it'll be things like, they'll want to buy something and we want to teach restraint, so we say we can't afford that.
Hmm.
Instilling this, identity, self-worth, shame, judgment, or we'll say things like money doesn't grow on trees. And again, implying scarcity and all this, you have to, the only way to have money is work hard and, you know, ignoring all these savings and investing. Um, and then there's all these other things where we'll look at people and be like, we have more than them, so we should be grateful.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a looking down upon. So it's so natural. We don't even realize we're doing it.
Mhm.
Um, and, or kid, a child wants to buy something. And you're like, no, that's too expensive. And it's like an ice cream cone. And so they're
Right.
thinking, oh, we can't afford $5.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's everywhere. And it's just what we're trying to do is teach them to manage their money well, but we're really teaching scarcity, low self-esteem, we're not enough. Or if we had more, we'd be better. where I could have the things I want. Like it's everywhere in every direction.
It is. Well, and I think sometimes well-meaning parents will say things, and it's like the kid internalizes it in a different way. So, for example, for me, one of the things that I had to unravel as an adult was that you had to work hard to make or deserve money. And so, I remember my parents, saying like, "No, I'm not paying $90 for Guess jeans. We're sending you to Catholic school and we made that choice. So we're taking you to Sears and you're going to get the Palmetto jeans, not the Guess jeans, which of course as a teenager is like, oh my God, this is terrible. Or they'd say things like, be careful with that toy. Like your father worked hard to pay for that. And so when I started my own business, I struggled for the first couple years because I love what I do. And it felt wrong to make money doing something fun. Because
Hmm.
previously working in accounting, you know, I loved the company I worked for because I worked for the family business for many years, but it was hard work. It was not, it wasn't pleasant. It was hard work. And I also think there was some guilt about, my brother stayed at the family business and he was working really hard. And I think there was almost this unconscious guilt of like, well, I can't make as much money as he does doing something that I love because that wouldn't be fair.
Yeah. It's
Like, isn't that crazy how those things just get in
well,
there?
and that's exactly what I mean. Like we don't realize what we're passing down to their kids, but it's like because we don't know how they're going to interpret it. Like one of the most damaging things my dad said to me in the same vein is I was out there working with him. He was a commercial diver and I was working with him on the boat and just sort of asking like and he was coming out of the water, cold, snot everywhere, like frozen. Just, I could tell he wasn't happy. I'm like, do you like work? Like, do you like this job? And, and the way his response, it was like, of course I don't. Like, this is work. If I liked it, it wouldn't be work.
Hmm.
And so, right to your point, so it's sort of stuck in like work has to be something you hate, which
Yeah,
is a terrible lesson to teach a child. But
right.
it's one that we think of like, well, hard work's a virtue. Well, it, it is like work hard, but it doesn't have to be something you hate. It doesn't have to be something you don't love. And
Right.
work for the sake of work isn't always the goal. Like, I'd rather like work smarter, work to, contribute, make a difference, but just work
Yeah.
doing nothing. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
I got that lesson too.
okay. Well, I was gonna say I'm a Gen Xer, so I think we all got that drilled into us.
Yeah, we
Well,
did.
well, many parents think teaching kids about money means teaching the mechanics of saving, budgeting, investing, and giving. But you're teaching something deeper around these topics. Why is helping kids identify their values, their interest, and deeper purpose such an important foundation even before we start teaching the financial skills?
Well, so a lot of it is because, like I said, I was a money nerd. So I read finance books when I was in, grade 5, and I love
You
this
sound like
stuff.
my nephew, Atticus. He loves that stuff too.
I know I was so into it, and I like remember like going through these things, but most of the mechanics of finance are actually quite simple. Like we all know it. Like, spend less than you make,
Mhm.
invest the difference, and let time grow your money. Like we all know what we're supposed to do. It's not actually that complicated. And there's advisors all over the place that can actually manage our money for us, professionals. And most of us don't do it. And most of us don't do it because it's not about not knowing about money. Like people don't go into credit card debt because they don't realize that debt is bad or that they don't have the
Yeah.
money. Like it's all emotional. And that's what we sometimes miss. Is like money isn't about following rules. It's all emotional. And that's why you see people at all different income levels struggling with money in different ways. And someone with less money happier with where they are and someone with more unhappier with where they are. It's all emotion.
Yeah. Well, you're speaking my language, sir. That's why you're on the Money is Emotional podcast. And you know what I really love about your book and your card deck is that this is something that parents can do with their kids because you've taken these ideas and you have turned them into these very creative tools. Your graphic novel, The Golden Quest, Your Journey to a Richer Life, and the awesome stuff discovery cards, which are basically discussion cards that families can use together around the dinner table. So, why did you choose to create these particular tools that are storytelling and conversation based instead of the traditional stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer, I mean, we learn better through story and conversation, and there's science behind it. So it just makes it more fun. But
Yeah.
also, again, back to me being a money nerd, I've been telling people about stock markets and like macroeconomics and interest rates since I was a kid. And every time the person start like I get in 10, 20 seconds and their eyes start to drift and they're just disinterested because people don't care
Right.
about that kind of stuff.
Right.
Whereas, all of these things, it was written for kids, but it's actually for adults.
Yeah.
It's the adult who doesn't want to read a big, heavy book on macroeconomics. Having these conversations, asking yourself, is this my awesome stuff? That's going to have a bigger impact on your relationship to money and your finances than understanding, global interest rates.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that because when my nephew Reed, who is now going to be a sophomore in college, which I can't believe, when he was 5-ish years old, I started buying him Dave Ramsey's books for kids that they had way back in the day. Not sure if
Yeah.
they might still be around, but there was one in particular about saving up and to pay for something, and um my brother probably read this book to him about 50 times, so sorry, Jim. Sorry that you had to read that 50 times because he's like, "This is a long book." But when he Reed basically told my brother, like, "I wanna buy a bike, and I wanna start saving money to buy a bike." So they started giving him allowance, and he'd saved up his birthday money, and then they matched him, and, he bought his own bike, and what was so wonderful is when they were on the drive home, my sister-in-law asked him, "Oh, so Reed, what are you gonna save up for next?" And he said, "I'm gonna buy a bike for my sister, Ayla." And
Oh,
I was just like, "Oh, that is the sweetest thing ever." But he learned that from those stories.
yeah. And I think that's the thing is that's how it lands. And actually, where I really got the inspiration, I was at my kids' like I volunteered at their school, the junior school when they're in elementary still, and I'd work in the library, and I remember just watching all these kids just run to the graphic novel section.
Mm,
And even the teachers are like, no, yeah, like get one chapter book. You can't get all just graphic novels. But that's what the kids wanted. So for me, it was like, oh, this makes complete sense. Like, let's give the kids what they want. And
yeah.
I'm still blown away that we don't have any other graphic novels or comics teaching this because it's so important.
Well, now we do, thanks to
Now
you.
we do.
Well, I'd love to touch on some of the other concepts in the book because, the first one and the one that you lead with is about spending and buying the awesome stuff. But I'd love for you to touch on some of the other concepts in the book and in the deck, just so people understand your philosophy of money.
Yeah, so the reason the awesome stuff is so important, like, and I talk about that is because that really is the intent, and it's all based around this concept of really understanding what you value.
Hmm.
But then I come into like the mechanics and try to really simplify it. And so I talk about always saving first because that's the easiest way to save. And
Yep.
then sending your money off to work so it can grow because that's the investing. And like those two pieces, if every adult took 20% or 10% of everything they earn and just put it in the stock market, 20, 30 years, that would be earning more than them. Like
Yeah.
it's incredible. And then uh, the fourth golden rule, and I really just have the four rules that I work around is give and you'll have more. And it's this idea of
My
giving.
favorite.
Yes. And again, this is breaking down those money stories of scarcity and self-worth. Like, it's understanding that, like, giving actually does make you richer. It's not something to do out of obligation or because you're better than. It's just, give because you can. It comes back to you. And it's really hard to feel poor when you're helping or giving.
Mhm. Yeah. That was something
So,
that my dad modeled for my brother and I very early in life. Him and my mom both were very, you know, volunteering, mentoring, always putting some money in the church plate. If someone needed a hand, I mean, we had a family, live in our spare bedroom for a month at one point because that's just who they were and how they modeled it. And part of my story is when I hit financial rock bottom because of not because I didn't know what to do, but because of my own stupidity. um my dad started talking to me about tithing and giving back, and I told him I was homeless. And he's like, "Well, technically you're houseless, like you're living in my spare bedroom in the suburbs, like you're not really homeless." And he's like, "If you'd like to go see where the homeless people are, like we can go drive, 20 minutes away, and you can see what it is like to be homeless." But that is what really started it for me, because then I began giving $5 a week to the homeless shelter, even while I was in my financial mess and I didn't have a place of my own and was feeling very sorry for myself. Like, we still have something to give, and giving that $5 a week, it actually made me feel better. And I firmly believe that when we give, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, love, it gives back to us.
it does, and I try to tell kids as well, like, it doesn't always have to be financial, like, we always have something to give.
Exactly.
But it does come back, like, it is, and some of it's going to be karma, some of it's just this thing, but I like to think that it's almost like that state of mind, like you just said, like,
Hmm.
it changed how you felt, and if you just think about even your own friends or people around you, like, if you want to help someone or do something for someone, and you had a choice between someone who was very generous with either their time or money, or someone who was very miserly and never gave of themselves, like, who you would help. And that's the
Right.
thing, is it's it's not just luck and karma, it's you create an environment where people want if the more generous you are, the more generous other people want to be to you. Even
Hmm.
strangers can sense that and see that in you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like your people can sense that your energy is open or restrictive. Just like,
Mhm.
even if they don't know that, they still feel it
Yeah.
for
Like, this
sure.
is a little off topic from money, but, like, if I'm walking around downtown and a stranger doesn't ask me for, like, directions or help or something in passing, I know my energy's off because, um, it happens so frequently, like, it's almost like a barometer of, like, how open am I that
Mm.
people
I
are
love that.
actually strangers are approaching me in the streets.
They're like, "He looks nice and open. Let me go ask this
Yeah.
this
Do you
cheerful fellow over here."
where's a good place to go for breakfast?
I love that. Well, if a parent is listening today and realizes they've unintentionally passed along some of their money fear, stress, or unhealthy patterns, what would you encourage them to do next?
So important, and this is, just my views on parenting in general, is tell the kids. Like, be honest about, I used to think this, or I've struggled with this, or you know what? I don't actually know much about investing. Let's learn it together.
Yeah.
It's, kids, like, maybe not when they're really, really young, but definitely as they get older, they love to see that vulnerability in their parents and know, like, I'm trying to figure this out. Let's figure this out together. Like, we don't have to have the answers, because that's what
Yeah.
I'm really trying to do with all this is eliminate, like, the shame and the judgment that usually comes around with money. And
Yes.
once we talk about it, that shame and judgment just, it's sort of like Brene Brown talks about, like, shame doesn't survive outside of the shadows. So
Yep.
just talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and what I love about your discovery cards is that it makes it easy for the family to talk about these concepts in a way that's not confrontational or overly difficult. And I don't know what the age range is for these kids, for the cards, but I'm like, I mean, if your kids are like 9, 10, and up, I think this is a great way to start those conversations.
For sure. I find the book usually lands better with younger elementary, and the cards
Mhm.
work really well in middle school. Like they're all designed to work at any age, but
Yep.
usually the kids love, like, the young guys love the graphic novels, and the slightly older ones. But I like you said, they're set up in a way so there is no right or wrong answer. And
Mhm.
the beauty in that, like, my favorite is when I hear stories of, like, a family where it's like the kids, the grandparents, and the parents all sort of talking and having a conversation, because you start seeing different values and what means something to each generation, and things that you didn't even realize. Like, it's so cool when
Yeah.
you have this conversation and, like, your best friend that you've known your entire life, and you find out something about them that you had no idea about.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, and I think having having these tools that make the money discussions easier are such a blessing for families, because I think that's the hard part is how do you start these conversations, right? Especially if you haven't been talking about money. And what I love seeing with my clients who have kids, as we progress through their coaching and they start to see their own patterns and we start to, correct those and get their finances organized and aligned with their values, it's like this light goes off where they're like, "Oh gosh, I need, there's things we need to change, in our day-to-day stuff that our kids like they need to be in on this discussion, but also they can see I've inherited this from one of my parents and I don't want to pass it down to my kids."
For sure. And that's where that candidness,
Yeah.
kids love that. Like, because then they realize, like, this isn't me trying to teach you something because I know best. It's, no, I didn't know best, and I want you to learn from my mistakes so your life is easier than mine was.
Yeah. Well, David, if you could wave a magic wand and teach every child in North America one lesson about money before they become adults, what would it be?
I mean, that's easy. That's the simply, like, before you want to buy anything or spend money or your time on something, just simply pause and ask, is this my awesome stuff? And
Yeah.
that's really the entire mission of
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Ah, I love this. Well, David, I'm like looking at time. I'm like, oh my gosh, this like half hour has flown by and like feels like 5 minutes. But this has been such a meaningful conversation. I'm sure we could probably go on for 5 hours. But here's my biggest takeaway from today is this, that money is emotional, even for kids. And the financial decisions that we make as adults, you and I both know it's rarely about math. It's rarely about the money. It's driven by our beliefs, our experiences, our fears, and the stories that were formed years and sometimes even decades ago. And a big part of my work is helping people uncover those money stories so that they can figure out, is this still serving me? And what I love about your work is you're helping families start this so much earlier in the process. So, way fewer young adults are going to have to come to me 10, 20 years from now. And I actually love that.
You don't want all those adults, the entire population of the US?
I don't have that much time, Dave. I mean, because instead of spending their adulthoods unwinding all these limiting beliefs about money, like kids can grow up learning with like fun tools like this on how to connect their money with their values, with their purpose, and what truly matters to them. So that is such a powerful gift. So thank you so much for being here today. And so, for those of you listening today, I want to leave you with David's most important question. What is your awesome stuff? Like, what matters most to you? What lights you up? And most importantly, does your money reflect those priorities? Because When your money aligns with your values, it stops feeling like a source of stress and it starts supporting your happiness. That's what financial dignity is all about. So, I have included all of David's links in the show notes, including where you can get a copy of the graphic novel and a deck of the conversation cards. Well, my friend, this is where I leave you for today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave us a review. It helps other people to find the Money is Emotional podcast. And if you're not a subscriber yet, what are you waiting for? Just hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, this is Christine Luken reminding you that you're good enough, you're powerful enough, and gosh darn it, people love you, including me. Bye for now.